fast, efficient and affordable business-grade hosting solutions, domain registration, SSL certificates and more. We also monitor and provide website security and update services, website builds, email hosting amongst other sensational products. If you have a question about your web page or your presence on the internet in general, no job is too big or too small. Visit our website today, or better yet, contact us at blueoceanwebhosting.com.au and leave your website issues to us.
Big ones, little ones, fiddly ones, powerful ones, the ones for the car or the truck, caravan, boat, mobility scooter, solar system. In fact, for any kind of battery, go straight to Battery Central Ipswich. They'll even help you when you know what you need to power, but have no idea what'll do the job. Battery Central Ipswich, 280 Brisbane Street, West Ipswich, behind the Yellow Building. Expert advice, better batteries, best prices, every day. That's Battery Central Ipswich.
Welcome to episode 758 of the Aussie Tech Heads. I'm Jason Oakley and this is Will Tompkinson. Hey, Will.
Says you.
You're going to deny everything.
Denial? That's a river as far as I'm concerned.
Ah. You know, to me, I don't hold a grudge. A grudge is just somewhere to park your car.
A grudge is a place to park your car.
How you been?
For some reason, out of all that, the only thing I get is a Harrow and Pace kit. I don't know why. It's got nothing to do with that. But anyway.
No, it's a 12th man.
Because they do something similar as well.
Yeah, yeah.
The two bouncers.
Yeah, Ron and Ron.
Yeah. Yeah, not too bad. It's been...
You know what, Ron? I don't like conflicts. Yeah, I don't like them either. I don't like any breakfast cereals.
That's what I was thinking of. It hasn't been too bad. It's been other than that, just random coughing for no apparent reason.
Ah.
Probably choking on the water. That'll do it. See,
Yep.
Water's dangerous. Water's unhealthy for you.
Fish swimming out.
I didn't choke on the beers at all as soon as I started drinking water.
You know.
But I do want to mention at the start of the show too. Thanks for the people who have sent in well wishes for Glenn, and
He needs them.
keep him coming, guys. It does help. He's not doing super well at the moment. So if you guys want to shoot him an email or a tweet or Facebook,
or just shoot him.
Well, that's Plan B. We're not quite there yet, but we're working on it. But it helps me out, guys. Just let me know you're thinking of him and wish him well. And of course, we're thinking of Kim and the rest of the family at the moment, who's doing all the hard yards at the moment. So
Yep.
Sort of get that out of the way before I forget, because I always forget.
Yeah, I was going to bring it up anyway.
No, okay, we can bring it up later.
Yep.
I'll make you feel better.
Anyway, thanks for the
we've been busy
donations
this week. Been organised. We got we sponsor a speedway car, and the speedway committee's decided they want to put a show on, and we got a big car park out in front of our shop, so they've decided they're going to put a show on there. So on Saturday, there's going to be all sorts of speedway cars and drivers and teams and merchandise and all sorts of stuff happening there. And there's a guy who does a barbecue. He does like pulled pork burgers and like
nice.
all sorts of wicked stuff. So he's going to be there for food. And they're going to have face. I think there might be a face painter if they turn up.
I did that once for a charity thing.
Yeah. And
someone's like, "Can you paint me to look like Pikachu?" And I'm like, "My daughter loves Pokemon, but do you think I could think of how to paint somebody to look like a Pikachu?" So I was just like, "Oh, well, there you go. Some yellow here and there, red cheeks, and a black nose.
Red,
good enough. I forget."
A red lightning bolt.
Yeah.
But so that's happening, and so I'm trying to get the store cleaned up and organised. Not that it's actually specifically for the store. I just happen to be the only store in the complex that's going to be open when the show's on. So
Lucky you.
So yeah, they'll be they let kids sit in the speedway cars and take photos of them and stuff. So if you are in the Ipswich area and you've got nothing to do tomorrow from I guess from 9 till 1 or some such, you can look up on my Battery Central Ipswich Facebook page. It'll be on there. But yeah, come down and have a bit of fun. So
Nice.
that's Saturday. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, so I've been getting ready for that, and of course it's been actually this week's been semi-reasonable. It's the hottest day we've had this week to today, and it was only it's still 31 in my computer room. So
we made it up to about 33 outside.
The rest of the week's been fairly decent actually. And the nights have been good sleeping weather. That's been down to 18, 19 degrees, so it's nice for sleeping.
Yep.
And it hasn't been getting super hot during the day this week, which is a nice change.
Especially with
last week,
shed warehouse thing.
Well, last week I stopped looking when it hit 35.
Yep.
And it was getting to the point where you'd move 3 steps and you'd just be drenched in sweat. And by lunchtime you're feeling sick because you've been sweating all day, and so that wasn't fun.
No. We should probably thank all the sponsors. That also helps out with Glenn and that, since he's not being able to work at the moment anyway.
Yeah, well, that's it. Thankfully, at least on Blue Ocean, you can go to Blue Ocean Web Hosting if you want to find out about that side of it. But he does thankfully have another guy who can kind of fill in a bit, so not entirely left out stranded there. But if you're a Patreon and you're one of the higher tiers, you also do get web hosting for free as part of your package. So that's one way of doing it. Or you can just, of course, donate any random amount that you choose.
Coffee, PayPal,
Bitcoin, cash. Cash is always good.
In non-serial unmarked bills.
Preferably,
non-sequential, I should say.
Yeah. And
in a sack that's got a $sign on it.
Yeah, or like a 1980s briefcase.
Yeah. What's the combination?
Right.
0, 0, 0, 0.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's the same combination on my luggage.
That's it. 10 points to whoever knows who that's from.
Yeah. Well, you can see what I bought this week. A nice scissor stand for my mic, so I can use my proper Rode microphone now. And I've got a windbreak on it as well. Started doing a bit more auditions for voiceover stuff. I did some Cybermen voices and a bunch of characters from Overwatch. So we'll see how that goes. It was a lot of fun. I particularly like doing the Aussie guy. There's an Australian guy. And
the problem when you do an Australian accent is you've got to force an Australian accent because the real Australian accent just doesn't cut it.
No. And so, yeah, I listened to his videos, his character online, and then I just copied that and used it. But yeah, he likes blowing stuff up. So it was a lot of fun. And he's like,
Aussies do, really.
I wasn't thinking of blowing stuff up. Or maybe a little bit. Okay, all right. What's wrong with that anyway?
Yeah.
That wasn't the voice, by the way. I'm not going to do that here.
Oh, that's not that far off.
It's kind of like it.
Yeah, it's yeah. I've always been fascinated by voice actors. Like, there's a couple of guys I watch on YouTube, and their ability just to.
And one of them got to be in a movie.
Yeah, he's actually done a couple now. But he originally Hotel Transylvania was Adam Sandler. It was Dracula.
Yep.
And due to mostly network conflicts, because they kind of pulled the network out from under him and changed networks. But he couldn't do the voice anymore, and they'd seen Brian Hull on YouTube impersonating him for some of his skits that he does.
Yep.
And they're like, "Hey, do you want to do it for real?" He's like, "Gee, let me think. Okay."
After they got some smelling salts out and brought him back around again, his dream came true.
He's also the only person in the world according to Disney anyway, who has had Mickey Mouse actually come to his house to wish him happy birthday.
Oh, wow.
Like a legit Disney Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice.
And then while they were there, they ended up filming some skits and stuff. He didn't know. All I said is, "Oh, we're going to send you a surprise for your birthday." He's like, "Oh, okay." Mickey Mouse and the film crew rock up on the door. And,
Hello, Brian. I'm Mickey Mouse.
yes, so yeah, he's all right. But there's a few guys who do it, and what I always find fascinating. I mean, I can hardly even emulate my own voice most days, but what I find fascinating is the good ones like Brian and a couple of other guys I watch. They can hear 10 seconds of anybody speaking, and the next words that come out of their mouth are exactly the emulation of what they've just heard.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, it takes longer to get nuances and to get the correct tone and the correct speech pattern. But like the fact that you could be a passable, a passable copy of somebody's voice after just hearing them speak for a couple of seconds,
That's pretty
it's
nuts.
quite amazing, really.
Do you know if he had any vocal training at all?
He was trained as a classical opera singer.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So he knows how to do the diaphragm and all of that.
Yeah,
so.
and he talks about that a lot, actually, in some of his live streams. He
it.
talks about how you got to support with your diaphragm, and he has a lot of trouble doing some voices. He's got to be standing up. He can't be sitting down because it holds his body in the wrong spot. And he's always carrying on about if you're doing a voice and it hurts, you're doing the voice wrong.
Yep.
You've got to find another way to do the voice because it shouldn't be hurting, because it doesn't hurt the person who does it. So clearly it can be done without it hurting. Unless you're, what's his name, who does Shaggy and
Matthew Lillard.
Sat in the car for half an hour and screamed until he could hardly talk. Destroyed his voice forever.
It was
not the recommended way of doing it.
There was a voiceover guy I used to follow on Twitter, and he got a job doing the English dub of an anime.
All right.
But the character's voice that he chose to do himself was really raspy voice in the back of the throat.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't ever do that, because if you have to do that for 2 hours straight with hundreds of takes, you need to take a couple of days off before you can do it again, because he said I should have known better to not try and strain my voice. It sounded like the character and it was good and everybody loved it, but it's just murder on your throat.
Yeah. You know the Bush Tucker man?
Yeah.
Imagine trying his voice. Couple of dozen packs of cigarettes for a few months and then give it a go.
You just do Alan Seal like they did on the Naked Vicar show. Cyril Wyndham and Cecil Simpson saying, sit back, settle down, set aside your secateurs and enjoy getting rooted.
It's funny actually. I'm a big fan of Home Free, which is an a cappella group, and their vocal percussionist, is like the stuff he can do with his voice is absolutely beyond amazing. Makes like people like Michael Winslow, makes them look like amateurs, But they also have one of their baritones can emulate the sound. You know the mouth harps, the mouth harp, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Twangy thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, he can do that with his voice.
All right.
And one of the other guys.
Who's that one you were telling me about who's won all the beatboxing stuff?
That's Adam. Yeah.
Oh,
Adam,
right, him.
Yeah. But Tim, who's their main bass, he can do subharmonics, which is singing like he's already down at like an E or something. He's got a six octave vocal range.
Yeah.
And it's like, but he's already down at a low note, and then he can do a subharmonic, which is you sing one note and then your vocal cords drop an octave and do the note below it. But then he can add like a vibrato effect to it as well.
Yeah.
So it gets like this. It's really hard to explain. It's almost like a I guess for want of a better word, it sounds like a frog croak.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
But it's like obviously pitch perfect. But like just the vocal abilities, it's just
amazing
what they can do. and they like Adam, who's the drummer. He can emulate everything from a harmonica to a guitar to a drum kit to violin to trumpet and trombone. Like he can emulate everything in a band with his mouth. Like it's all done vocally. It's absolutely amazing, and you know,
mix them up, different instruments in the same thing.
And you can get multiple instruments at the same time somehow. Now, you can't play multiple instruments at the same time, but he can sound like multiple instruments.
Yeah.
I've always just found that, like years ago, I was fascinated with beatboxing. And okay, beatboxing is cool, but most beatboxers really are basic drums at best, and kind of like a scratch pad, and that's kind of
all they do.
It's an oversimplification, but effectively that's all they do.
Yep.
And then I discovered, like Michael Winslow, some of the sound effects. I mean, he did a 2-hour video on emulating typewriters.
Yeah, I saw you showed me that one. That was crazy. I mean, all the different models, makes, and
from like the first typewriter and onwards, he's done like 100 different typewriters. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic vocal technician.
Yep.
But then he puts somebody like Adam, and he just blows them out of the water. Like his ability to do stuff is just phenomenal.
Man, cool.
You know, he didn't compete a couple of years ago at the World Beatboxing Championships because he was touring.
Yeah.
And he was voted by his peers as the world's best beatboxer, and he wasn't even there.
Nice.
So
it's good to have friends like that.
So, you know, like he blew them out of the water and he wasn't even participating.
Oh dear. Shall we do some news?
Let's try something different.
NBN Co. is hoping to use a proposed new pricing model to test how much more it can acceptably charge users for 100 megabits per second service. The company is proposing to introduce flat rate wholesale prices on its 100 meg tiers and above. That would mean it does away with the unpopular connectivity virtual circuit CVC bandwidth charge on these tiers, but in doing so removes a variable cost that can be brought in additional revenue. To compensate for the loss of revenue, NBN Co. has proposed to increase the cost of flat price plans once a year using a new construct of CPI plus 3%. With CPI at current levels, that could mean a 6.5% a year price rise, which at least one retailer believes is not going to fly and could result in repercussions at a government level. NBN Co. sought to clarify the CPI plus 3% concept at Senate estimates, but in doing so revealed that it intends to use the mechanism to see just how much more users will pay for a broadband service. What we will do is test the market, CEO Stephen Rue said. It's available to us on a use it or lose it basis, if you like, so the extent that it's not there and the retailers are not able to sell services based on that wholesale price, we would adjust the prices. It really enables us to test what is actually the propensity to pay. Labor Senator Louise Pratt sought immediate clarification how much Australians are prepared to pay for these services. He said, that, Senator, is what we will see. So we're just going to keep jacking up the prices until people stop paying it, and then we'll go, well, I guess that's the limit, so we'll set it there.
Unfortunately, it's the mentality of most businesses. It's the consumer pays.
Yep.
Or how much the market will bear is the terminology for it. Basically, you know the market price. Let's say, you know, the market price is $100, but supply's a little bit short and there's not a lot of competition. So you squeeze it up 120, 130, 140. Then you eventually find the threshold. Let's say it's $150. Your turnover slows down. Be like, okay, it slowed down a little bit, but I'm still making more money than I would be if it was $140. So you bump it up to 160 and it slows down a little bit more. And then at 175, you go, okay, well, I'm breaking even at where it would be at 140. I can't make any more, but I can still charge more and get the same amount of profit and revenue out of it. So you charge 175.
Yep.
But then eventually competition comes in, or market situations change, or the
COVID hits.
The apparent value dips away.
Yep.
And the irony is, what they'll do is they'll go down to their $140, which is where their peak was last time. But because they've dropped $35 off the price, everybody goes back for it, and they're making more money. So even though they actually haven't lost any money, they've been making more money with the same turnover, or with the same customer base. they drop it back down to 140. More people sign up, so they actually make more money, even though they're charging less. But they're still charging more than the $100 the product's worth.
Yeah.
So
Ka-ching.
it's not. I mean, it's rife across the industry, all industries in general. Like, especially industries where there's no competition or very little competition. The NBN's a classic example of that. Okay, you don't want to use the NBN because they cost too much, but what are your options?
Yeah.
I mean, what are you gonna do? You don't use internet? Like
Aussie Broadband TPG rolling out their own stuff, aren't they?
yeah, but I mean, it's
Not
still
everywhere.
No, I mean it's dark fiber and they are rolling out fresh fiber in certain areas. But I mean, if you have that option, great. But that's only a handful of percentage of.
Bring them up. Hello, can I have the non-NBN NBN?
Yeah. Can you just run some optic fiber at the front of my house, and I'll just go with you guys?
Yeah, that'll be $100,000, thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
And this is the thing, and it's like, okay, well, and this is where technically the consumer watchdogs should step in and go, well, no, hang on, your service comparable price is this much. You can't charge more than that.
Yeah.
You know, because of these reasons. You know, like anti-competitive and blah 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 blah. You know, so it's just because the market will bear a price doesn't mean it should bear a price. A lot of the time we call it the Australian tax. Like, you know, Adobe was a classic example of that.
I was just going to say.
Yeah, where you're not physically receiving a product, but you're paying 3 times more than anybody else in the world because why not?
Yeah.
Do you want the product or not?
Yeah.
You know, and that's literally what it comes down to. And it's...
They're effectively like a monopoly anyway.
Not really. I mean, there's free programs that do everything.
There are, yeah, but
Adobe
businesses are always going to
and
go.
so many of them are stepping away from... Adobe has lost like 40% of its customer base in the last 12 months.
Any wonder?
Because people are realizing there's free alternatives that actually work better. They're cheaper or free in some cases, and they're a better product.
Yeah.
You know, so it has come back to bite them in the ass.
Well, what about me with getting Hit Film, and I paid them?
Exactly. Yep.
Because the one I was with wanted like $400 for the next version.
Yeah.
Like, how about I give Hit Film $50?
Yeah, and Office 365.
Yep.
Who does that? You just use OpenOffice or LibreOffice.
Yep.
Most people
Google
actually,
Docs.
for the most part now, a lot of people are switching to Libre. Yeah, Google Docs is fine for like 90% of the things you want to do. Yep. But you need an OpenOffice or a LibreOffice just for a few little things that don't work in Google Docs. And then you've got like Foxit for your reader.
Yep.
You're a little bit restricted with editors. They all charge a bit for editors, but some companies charge less than others. You know, so there are always options, but something like the NBN where you literally have one NBN co and they decide who they allow to buy directly from them.
That's their wholesale price, so people have to put something on top of it, otherwise you can't run your business.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, so there's 2 tiers here. There's what we will pay, and then there's what the wholesalers will pay. I guess the retailers will pay to NBN, who's the wholesaler.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, there's obviously profit margins in there for everybody. So if we're running the most we'll pay is $100.
Yeah.
Then the most the retailer's going to pay is going to be, you know, most 30% generally is or a GP you try to shoot for. So they're going to pay like $70.
Yeah.
And NBN still wants their 30%, so it means, you know, they have to sell it for like $40. Which isn't really an issue because that's a clear profit because they don't.
Yeah.
They have more expenses because they've finished. So it's actually harder in that situation because you've got a 2-tier system there, even though it's ultimately still a monopoly because at the end of the day they're still feeding off NBN.
Yeah.
It's up to the retailer now how much profit they want to make, or indeed if they want to make any profit.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they have to make profit to some degree, otherwise they won't be there. So it doesn't matter how cheap their internet is. If they're not going to be around in 3 months' time, it doesn't matter.
That's right.
So, you know, but then you've got people like Telstra who just charge stupid amounts of money, or Foxtel's another one. You bundle your package with Foxtel and you get internet and TV, and you end up paying, you know, $20, $30 per month more than going, you know, with a different provider. And then there's obviously cheaper ones like Aussie Broadband. Then there's real cheap ones like Dodo and that you just don't want to know about because they're really cheap for a reason.
Cheap and nasty.
They've got overseas support. They've got, or lack of support. They've got, bad speeds, all this sort of stuff because they're overselling their network, so they can be a bit cheaper because they're overselling what they're supplying.
But if it's just grandma who checks her email on Facebook once a day,
or they're selling to a lot of people who are not big families, like you look at a lot of their customer base and they have smaller data caps, but it's usually for a smaller family of only one or two people. They're working during the day. They're only home on the internet for a couple of hours of a night. They don't use it all the time. So that's kind of what they're hoping, is that they can oversell their network and not take a huge performance hit because the people they're aiming at don't use that much of their product.
Yeah.
So then it's a balancing act between it being so overpriced it's no longer obtainable and being so underpriced that it's no longer sustainable. So, and it's harder in the middle. We're in the same thing at work. We've just got, over the last 3 or 4 days, we've got letters from all our suppliers saying, come the start of next month, they're putting their prices up 12%.
Yep.
Just before Christmas, they put their price up 12%.
Great.
That's a 24% wholesale price rise in 2 months.
Yeah.
We can't put our prices up 25+%.
No.
We just won't sell anything. So we need to, now, we've just basically have to take we put it up the first 12%. We can't really put it up again. We effectively have to take a hit of 12% off the top of our GP, which means we now need to sell 20% more product.
Yep.
To make the same end of day GP that we were making before.
Yeah.
The market's not there to sell 20% more product. So we're actually going to be losing 20% on top of whatever we were making because we can't make that difference up.
Yeah.
If we put our price up, we sell even less.
Yeah, so it's even worse.
And so it makes the problem worse. If we leave our prices where we are, we need to sell more, but when you're
stuck between a rock and a hard place.
You can't just magically sell more products. You need the customers, and there's only so many customers every day that you get.
What do you do?
So yeah, it's but the dumb part is we're a small independent business, and people are always going, "Hey, can you do a better price?" Or, "No, I can't do a better price." That's like the price I do is the price I do.
Yep.
I'm still $100 cheaper than our competition down the road. But people don't go in there and ask for discounts because they know they're not going to get one anyway. And they'll pay an extra $100 for the same product, and then they come to us for the same product and pay $100 less already, and then want a discount on top of that. And it's like, no. If you're going to buy 2, 3, 4, 5 products, yes, I'll give you a discount. I'm not giving you a discount for one product, especially when it's like a $30 battery in the first place. How much money do you think I'm making on a $30 battery?
Yeah.
We
don't barter.
On a $30 battery, I make $3. I can't give you 10% off.
No.
Because then I'll actually lose money by the time I take GST out of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not that I don't want to do a better price.
Yeah.
I'm not physically able to do a better price unless, if you buy bulk off me, then okay, I can probably work something out.
Would you like me to shut the company down? Sure, take a discount now.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you can go to that guy who'll charge you $100 more because there's nobody else.
It does kind of annoy me, and this has been something I've been in retail most of my life, on and off. And it's one thing I've worked for big retailers, I've worked for small companies, I've owned my own, everything in between. And when I was working at Woolworths and Coles and Myers and a lot of these big places, and Harvey Norman is another one, nobody ever goes to the front counter and goes, "Oh, can you do a better price?"
No.
You just don't. But people walk into a little small, mum and dad business, and they go, "Oh, I can get that cheaper down the road. Can you do it better?" And it's like, well, no, because if I could do it better, I would have done it better. Like that, there's only so much I can mark a product down and still make money on it. Yeah. If you can find it cheaper somewhere else, well, if you're not going to buy it from me, go somewhere else and buy it.
I have employees to pay and electricity bills and rates.
And the thing is, when they say I can get it cheaper somewhere else, what they mean is they can get it cheaper online because that person doesn't have to stock the product.
Yeah.
They're ordering the product directly from the supplier and they're getting a drop ship to the customer. They don't have to handle the product. They don't have to store it. They don't have to warehouse it. They don't have to buy it in advance and have it sitting on the shelf until they sell it.
You don't have to have random people coming in asking questions and then going away and taking your time.
And answering phones and taking phone calls and emails. And that's literally just, oh, you want to buy it? Okay, fine. I'll sell it to you. I'll order it from them and they'll send it to you and I haven't got to do anything.
Yep.
So they can make 3 or 4% on a product and still make money on it. But when you've actually physically got to stock and warehouse a product, you can't do that. You've got so many more overheads. Even, like, let's say I've got 100 batteries sitting on the shelf. I've got to divide my monthly running costs between those 100 batteries. My rent, my power, my internet, my phone, fuel usage and maintenance and tools and freight and all that's going to be divided between those 100 batteries.
Insurance.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got to make my money on those 100 batteries every month and split the difference up between all those, and it's not like, and if I get obviously we do have some trade customers, some bigger trade customers who buy a lot of product from us. So we do discounts for that. But that makes it harder because now I've only got 95 products on the shelf and I've made almost nothing selling those 5 products to that wholesaler or that trade customer. So now suddenly I've got to make all that money up in those 95 products I've got. Plus, I've also got to make enough money that when I sell a product, not only have I covered all those running costs, I've also got to buy that product in again to restock the shelves.
Yeah.
So you've got to,
people don't think of all this stuff behind the scenes. It's just,
no,
I want it cheaper.
And it's not anyone's fault. I mean, you're not trained to think that way. You just assume that everyone's out to rip you off and trying to make money from you. And that's everybody thinks that. Unless you've run a business or you've managed a business, you don't think that way. You're just not programmed to think that way.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Like I get it. I used to think the same way. Like it's not a personal attack on anybody by any means. It's just something you become acutely aware of when you're in the situation that you're trying to make money, and then you suddenly realize that you can't because, you've only got 80 products on the shelf this month, not 100.
Yep.
And you can't make enough GP on those products once it starts going backwards, it very quickly goes backwards because you can't buy that product back in again because you haven't made enough money on the sale of the products to buy them back in.
Yep.
So it's kind of a weird, it's a weird spiral, but my point was, it's the market, how much the market will bear. Well, we'll charge, say, $100 for this battery. The competition up the road charges $200 for the same battery. Yeah, people will go there and buy it straight up, but they come down to me and save $100 already. But obviously they'll pay the extra $100 because if they didn't, they wouldn't be selling it for an extra $100.
Yeah.
So it's a weird concept to wrap your head around, actually.
Yeah. You can keep business stuff. I'll keep you out of it.
I honestly, it's if you're not a fan of sleeping and you love stress, owning a business is great.
Great. If you don't like money, open a business.
Yeah, if you don't ever want to have any money, you don't want
free time.
Sleep, no free time. You love stress. You love high pressure situations. You love always worrying about if you're going to be able to open the shop next week.
Yeah.
Then
the government shuts you down. The government shuts you down, says no businesses for a couple of weeks. Thanks.
Yeah, well, there's that too. Luckily, we always don't care about that. What are they going to do? Like, But speaking of NBN, under an Australian government, I'll start at the start of the story. One of the original problems is that there's no sensible way to get all of the network on some form of parity. While built-up areas cross their collective fingers and hope their name appears on a suburb to get the fibre to the node upgrades, there remains parts of NBN remit on fixed wireless and satellite services, and for these people, the absolute theoretical best is 50 meg per second, but practical baseline is 25 meg a second. So disappointing was the NBN satellite service in the early years that Labor, the party that purchased the satellites when it created the NBN, called for a review of their technology in 2017. And they ordered 10-year-old technology when they ordered it. Anyway, The state of rural and regional connectivity, along with increases in data consumption being reflected across the country, was discussed at the Regional Telecommunications Review published on Monday that was completed by a committee chaired by former Nationals MP and Shadow Regional Communications Minister Luke Hartsolker.
Sounds good.
Hartsolker. Let's go with that. With the announcement of further fixed line upgrades to address future demand, the demarcation between those in the NBN fixed line footprint and those outside threatens to compound existing digital divides unless more is done for users of the NBN, fixed wireless and satellite networks. Those on satellite connections, the report said, felt restricted due to the usage of peak and off-peak data quotas, and users were hesitant to for voice services to supply due to the latency issues. And weather events such as rain fade or heavy cloud providing less resilience than current copper-based landlines. Not that the report for copper was much more positive. Copper and other networks used to provide landline services to the regions are deteriorating, and not enough is being done under the existing consumer safeguard framework to ensure that they are appropriately maintained to the standards expected by regional users. The report called for obligations on Telstra to prevent copper faults rather than remitting them. What is that word? Rather than fixing them after they happen. I don't know, as well as annual report on the telco's maintenance program as part of the USA obligations. Regional, rural, and remote customers would be better serviced by regular regime of repairs and maintenance, which instead of applying individual rebates or compensation, is enforced across the technologies, in which uses significant escalating penalties to make sure providers are encouraged to actively prevent, identify, and resolve network faults. The report called for the NBN to shift satellite users onto fixed wireless where it could, although that technology had its own problems as well, particularly in the speeds offered to users. NBN Co has a minimum 6 megabits per second busy hour performance target. This is too low to meet the reasonable expectations of consumers, the report said. Any standard imposed by SIPs, statutory infrastructure providers, should mandate the busy hour speed target for both downloads and uploads to ensure services are meeting demand during the periods of heaviest use. In recent releases of statistics on fixed wireless performance, the ACCC, those on the supposed 2550 down and 520 up fixed wireless plan have been shown to be barely able to crack 6 meg for upload. While we suggest 6 meg target and other speed targets need to be significantly strengthened as demand continues to increase and pressure the network. NBN Co has recently introduced Fixed Wireless Plus, which is delivering increased download speeds on the network. However, the committee has just heard that upload speeds on these plans have been reduced from initial 20 to just 10. This is insufficient for many of the activities higher bandwidth users are looking for the service for. Addressing mobile communications, the committee was in line with recent ACCC calls for telco mobile coverage measurement standard. At the heart of the problem is telcos interpreting record-keeping rules over coverage in different ways. Optus and TPG mostly do it with predicted outdoor coverage on a standard handset, while Telstra predicts coverage based on having an external antenna. Much of the coverage information available to consumers uses either predictive assumptions which do not reflect lived experience or inconsistent terminology, which makes it difficult to compare competing service offerings. Consumers, businesses, and policymakers need to be able to access accurate and granular cover information. So basically, yeah, the ACCC and the rural telecommunications, whatever it was, are basically saying, this isn't acceptable.
No.
You can have really laggy and buggy and inconsistent satellite, which might be a little bit quicker than fixed wireless, but probably not. You can have fixed wireless, which is really, really slow, but at least it's fairly stable most of the time, unless the network's busy, in which case it's not. Or you can have the high-speed fixed wireless, which isn't actually really high speed. It's what our normal one should be, but we're going to charge you more for the privilege anyway.
Damn.
So, yeah. And I get what they're saying with the coverage maps. Like, you look at the coverage map for where we are here, and Vodafone, Optus, Telstra, they all cover this area, apparently. But there's a tower 500 meters that way, and there's another tower 500 meters that way, and another tower 500 meters that way. And the problem is, one's a Telstra tower, one's an Optus tower, and one's a Vodafone tower. And they argue with each other.
Yep.
And you can literally stand in one spot and turn around and you lose signal.
Oh, jeez.
Like, some days when it's good, it's fine. And then other days it's absolutely horrendous. You might get some days you won't even get 4G. You'll get 3G occasionally and even 2G sometimes.
Wow. It's terrible.
And then you move literally 3 inches this way and you get perfect signal. Like, it's so bad. And places where you'd expect a good signal, like the middle of town,
yep,
it's actually really bad.
Oh.
There's no signal at all in the shop, in the Drakes.
Yep.
You're lucky if on a good day you can send a text message.
Wow.
Yeah, it's horrible. But like their coverage, according to their maps and everything, because they've got towers here.
Yeah, that's good enough.
The coverage maps say that you've got perfect coverage for 20 k's in each direction, which you don't.
No.
But because they used, as I said, they use the theoretical mapping.
Yeah.
It doesn't take into consideration interference or terrain.
Yep.
In theory, yes, I have perfect coverage here.
In reality, it's something different.
But the thing is, it's not like people go, "Oh, you should have gone with Telstra because Telstra's better." It's like, well, not here. It's not, because of the way the towers are fighting each other all the time. Instead of, and I don't know why they did it. That they've got one tower that's on top of the biggest hill here, which was the original Telstra tower, and it had heaps of room on it. They only had a couple of aerials on it for Telstra. Instead of Optus and Vodafone putting their stuff on that tower, Optus put a tower at the back of the golf course, which is over there, and Vodafone put a tower at the back of the pool, which is over there. So they've all got separate towers.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to do that, shouldn't you have put 3 towers up and had all 3 providers on all 3 towers?
That would make sense. They're not known for making sense.
No, but it's so frustrating because, like, you any of the rural around here, like normally, yeah, you'd go Telstra's the best for rural areas because they got better coverage, but it's something to do with the way they got the towers set up here. That doesn't matter who you're with, you just get garbage signal, even with an external aerial. It's actually a big problem for the a lot of the CFA, the Rural Fire Brigade and stuff like that. They have a lot of issues with it because, and even the ambulance do as well, because they actually they got really interesting walkie-talkies, or their communications devices are really interesting. They don't just work like a mobile phone. They don't. They kind of work a combination between a CB, a microwave transmitter receiver, and a mobile phone. They'll send signal down anything that's available to them. So if they've got a mobile phone tower, they'll send signal down that. If there's nearby power lines, they'll send the signal down that. If there's nearby phone lines, they'll send the signal down there. So they have multiple ways of getting the signal delivered and received for their communications. It's a really interesting concept. But in their vehicles, they have a normal like car phone and a normal UHF, and they have a lot of troubles here with communications. And they put it down to the way the towers are set up. Like, once they've got massive big black spots as soon as they go a couple of k's out the road, and they shouldn't. They should have perfect coverage
everywhere. Yep.
But they just have huge coverage issues here, and nobody really knows why. It's just like it's a black hole for wireless. It's even radio. Like, you drive out of town, the radio drops out.
It's a Bermuda Triangle.
It's bizarre. Nobody really knows what's causing it, but I reckon it's the way they've got the towers configured that they're just so close to each other, they're creating their own interference.
Yep.
Because they're only maybe a K, or probably not even, probably less than a K away from each other in a triangle shape.
Yep.
I don't know.
Crazy.
But yeah, so the idea is that they're going to try and standardize the way that they're measuring all their things, and they're going to make it so well, what we're talking about before, they're going to try and stop the overselling on lines, but they're going to try and make people like Telstra, who are supposed to be supporting the existing copper infrastructure, they're going to make them liable instead of just going, "Oh, look, it went down. Sorry, here's $5 back."
Yeah.
They're going to actually make them liable for preventative maintenance that they haven't done. Instead of waiting till something fails, they know that line that's running that way is 35 years old.
Yep.
They need to go and check it and find out because it's probably going to break somewhere.
Yep.
So they need to be proactive more in their approach.
Sounds good. Microsoft has released a substantial feature update to its Windows 11 operating system, bringing, among other things, support for Google Android apps to a general audience in the United States. The company today said the app update adds over 1,000 more apps in partnership with the Amazon App Store, available via the Microsoft Store that's built into Windows 11. Amazon App Store remains in preview form, having been tested since last year as part of Microsoft's early adopter insider program for Windows 11. Users have already worked out how to install the Google Play Store on Windows 11, giving them a greater selection of apps than Amazon provides. Sticking with Amazon App Store, North American users have access to popular apps like the Kindle e-reader, Audible, and Subway Surfers, which Microsoft says integrates naturally with Windows input and windowing experiences. Microsoft also introduced taskbar application launcher improvements with the Windows 11 update and redesigned media player and notepad apps that add user-requested features such as improved accessibility and multiple undo levels.
So you need an app for your app to run your app.
Yep. Yo, dog, I heard you like apps, so I put an app in your app so you can app all your app.
Pretty much. Well, I mean, people have been sideloading it for a while, so I guess it's about time they made it official, I suppose.
Yeah. There's that, what was the one you had? Blue something?
Blue sticks? Blue...
Something like that. And you could just run it like an Android emulator.
Well, there's heaps of those for any version of Windows, but I mean, Windows 11 supposedly natively supported Android and Linux in general, so people have been sideloading, the Play Store and whatever on there for a while. I guess having done that, they're probably sideloading the Android store, probably the Samsung store, the Xiaomi store, all the different stores for all the different things. I don't know. I'm still not game to upgrade my computers to 11 yet. Well, I mean, I'm running Linux now on here anyway, so it's not a big deal.
Yep.
But my work computer keeps bugging me, saying, you need to upgrade to 11. I'm like, I just don't. You're on wireless, and I don't trust the wireless to work because half the time I come in of a morning and you've lost connection anyway. Like, I just, no.
My work laptop keeps saying, OS X Monterey is out, you should upgrade. And the company's like, please don't anyone press that button because it doesn't work with our VPN software. You won't be able to do any work.
Yeah, that'd be a problem.
Okay.
Noticed Microsoft's really enforcing the, hey, you definitely need to migrate your account now.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they're sending out emails and everything saying you've got until the end of next month, I think, to migrate your account. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Dang.
I'm like, well, that'd be fine if I had access to the original emails that the accounts were opened up under.
Can't
but
do it, Jack.
I don't. So, but yeah, I don't know. Well, I do like that about new Windows 11, though, the fact that it is so cross-compatible. It does sort of beg the question, though, will they open up drive support and stuff like that, like open source drivers and stuff? Because if you're supporting open source software, for it to run natively, which is still kind of emulating, but it's kind of not as well, you really want to have access to the drivers from the like a low-level load rather than just a software emulation on a driver. You'd like to be able to go, hey, I'm just going to piggyback off this driver directly rather than having to emulate the device that driver's running and then link the emulation to another emulated piece of hardware.
Yeah.
So, well, I have to say, though, this Linux has been amazing. Like, it's so fast, so stable, so My games run so much better.
Best
I
OS
don't.
ever? Didn't you say you got better distance line of sight and stuff?
Yeah, well, all my games, I've got them all cranked up to their maximum settings, and they're still running at high frame rates, and they're running on medium under Windows. They're loading faster. There's a few little. Usually, one of the weird things is in OBS, which I have running just to control a few things, but in OBS, my webcam mic works,
Yep.
but in Discord it doesn't.
Oh.
Like, why? Using the same driver, like.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of weird quirks like that, but for the most part, it's just
Best
been
update.
like there's nothing I haven't been able to make happen under Linux than I have had to do under Windows.
Yep.
And almost everything, actually, I would go as far as to say everything runs faster.
Right.
I don't have the memory leaks in Chrome or in any of the browsers that you have under Windows. I can open 400 tabs and have almost zero system impact. So,
Brilliant.
love it. It's been good. But speaking of computers and things, most people have probably heard of Newegg to some degree. Basically, they're an online store. You can access them in Australia as well. They're computer parts, predominantly hardware components. They do sell complete systems as well, but they're known basically for their hardware components. That's pretty much what they're known for. I don't have a specific story, but there's a lot of stuff happening on YouTube at the moment. Lots and lots of YouTubers who build systems and test components and things like that have been ordering off Newegg. And it's not just YouTubers, it's happened to regular people as well, but the YouTubers obviously get more airtime.
Yeah.
And they've been receiving back, like they've been ordering brand new parts, not discounted, not marked down, been ordering brand new parts, and they've been receiving, at best, second-hand components, and a lot of them have been receiving returned faulty components.
Jeez.
And they know this because they've been leaving what's called the RA, or return authorization, which is a tag that if you want to return something, they send you a sticker, send you a tag, you put it on it, has the serial number, the product name, the original purchase date, all that sort of stuff on there. So these people have been not only receiving opened boxes that often don't even have, you order a motherboard box, you usually get a driver disc, you get a manual, you usually get the back plate. Often you'll get SATA cables or power cables, stuff like that. A lot of them have been opening the box and there's been nothing in there except the motherboard that sometimes isn't even wrapped in the anti-static packaging.
Jeez.
And on the back of it's an RA sticker saying return faulty, doesn't work, blah 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 blah. So that's not a nice state of case. It's happened. There's literally hundreds of cases of this on YouTube.
Wow.
Not to mention you look on Reddit. I don't do Reddit, but you look on Reddit and places like that, and there's just page after page after page of this happening.
Yep.
It's only been the last 6-8 weeks.
Oh, okay.
And of course, Newegg's put out a thing saying, "Oh, we're sorry, we didn't mean for that to happen." There's been a,
Glitch in the matrix.
There's been a handling error, and they were put in the wrong pile. Like, yes, I'm sure that 10,000 items were taken from the RA pile and put on the please sell now pile.
Accidentally.
That's something that happens.
Yeah.
But the worst part is not, okay, fine, they could have been returned and they work fine, or somebody changed their mind and just wanted to send it back, or in the case with Amazon, as we know, there's a thing with Amazon where you don't even have to, you can cover something for 30 days and they go, "No, I don't like it, I'm sending it back," so.
And send back 2 bricks instead.
Yeah, that happens too. So there is a case to be made that a lot of the stuff that's been sent out probably actually works. Which, okay, you can kind of deal with that. But there's so much stuff that's been sent out that actually is faulty. Genuinely faulty. And
Not
some
tested.
of it to the point where, like, there's actually exploded caps on motherboards and there's like burn marks on memory sticks and stuff.
God.
Like, but obviously faulty that half a second look would have solved.
Yeah.
And if you pick up a box and it rattles when you pick it up, you go, "I probably should look in there and just make sure it's supposed to,
Yeah.
So So yeah, so Newegg, they're a huge company. Like Newegg's been around for
Forever.
20 years that I know of, and probably longer.
Yep.
They're a massive company. They've got warehouses all over the world. They're kind of like Amazon in some respects. Like they have massive warehouses and massive distribution centers, and they buy container loads of stock from suppliers, and they often have really good prices.
Yep.
But this is going to be interesting to see how they claw back from this one.
Yeah.
There's even a case of one guy who returned something, obviously, because it was sent out with an RA slip on it. And another YouTuber ended up with that same component with the same RA authorization number on it.
God.
So it's not like it's just a one-off thing that pile accidentally got put there.
Yeah.
That pile accidentally got put there. Then all the stuff that come back in continues to get put there.
Yeah.
You know.
We still haven't discovered the fault.
So just be wary if you're ordering off Newegg or they have a affiliate Amazon site, they have an affiliate AliExpress site. I think they have an affiliate Banggood site as well. I know that they sell on eBay sometimes as well. Just be wary if you're ordering anything from Newegg. When you receive it, check it out really carefully. Make sure it is what you're supposed to be getting, because it's been a big problem lately.
And don't plug it in because it might bang the rest of your stuff.
Yeah, well, that's it. Check it first. Make sure it's new and it's sealed. And it's easy to tell because usually the box is sealed, and then inside the box, the motherboard or the component is sealed in an anesthetic bag, and then the manuals usually sealed in a separate bag. So there's usually multiple layers of stuff being sealed.
And if you can smell that somebody let the smoke out,
yeah, exactly.
They don't work without smoke in them.
Or if it rattles when when you pick it up from the post office, check it out. If you do have anything, let us know, because I'd be curious to know if it's something I haven't. The one thing I have to admit, I haven't heard any reports of it happening in Australia. It's not to say it hasn't. It possibly has, but we don't have the YouTube presence of England and America either, so it's kind of probably part of the reason. But if you do know of it happening, let us know. I'm curious to know if it's actually happened to anybody.
Telstra Purple delivered a near real-time virtual race control system, which basically means their network can help to make flying cars a reality. We've been racing cars since the late 1800s. The original Grand Prix races in France raced from town to town with cars driving at a blistering average speed of about 20 kilometres an hour. We've certainly come a long way since then, from the big petrol engines of the late 1900s to the hybrid and electric formula cars we see today. Motor racing has always been at the forefront of technological evolution and pushing the boundaries of what we can do in the name of speed. Airspeeder is the next evolution of this, promising flying electric cars with a revolutionary viewing experience that Telstra's incredibly proud to be a part of. The racing series has been created by the world's only performance electric vertical takeoff and landing eVTOL manufacturer, Alauda Aeronautics, and the historic first flights took place near Adelaide in June. Airspeeder's vision for the world's first electric flying car racing series has the underlying potential to transform the way we move around cities, just as Formula One has driven innovation for the cars we use today. Whether pilots are on board or flying remotely, they'll be able to fly and race closely and safely without physically touching, with the near-time data and connectivity powering haptic alerts and proximity sensors. Telstra Purple developed a near real-time virtual race control system that feeds essential technical status information to the ground crews throughout races and test flights, reflecting the approach employed by leading aviation companies in augmenting and monitoring essential systems for aircraft safety. You going to buy a flying car to fly to work?
So here's the thing. Actually, there's several issues with that. But the main one is everyone's like, oh, I want to buy a flying car so there's no traffic. I'm like, you do realise that if everybody buys a flying car, then the traffic's not going to be on the highway. You're correct. There won't be any traffic.
Yep.
But about 20,000 feet up, there will be a lot of traffic. Have you not seen Phantom Menace or whatever it is when they fly around the city, or
Fifth Element.
Fifth Element. That's what I was going to say. Sixth Sense then, but yeah, Fifth Element. Where the there's just cars and chaos, or was it
Futurama.
Judge Dredd? Was it Judge Dredd? No, what was
I don't
there was
remember.
another one like that. I'm pretty sure it was a Sylvester Stallone movie, but the same thing.
Yep.
Or even Futurama's another one. Oh, what's the one? The Amazon TV series we uploaded.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing. It's like they're not flying. But they're fully automated. And so, Jetsons. There's another one where they get stuck in traffic all the time. Jetsons is like this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like now.
Man, I thought it came out years ago.
It's so funny. Like they got some stuff right, but yeah. So I'll let you guys buy flying cars, and I'll just keep my normal one, and we'll see who gets to work quicker.
Well, everybody else will be up there, so you'll be the only one on the highway.
That's what I mean. So but yeah, I don't. I've seen a couple of experiments where they've done like supposed driving the vehicle from a simulator. Like they're getting live feedback from the vehicle and they're controlling the vehicle. And even with a direct like mesh network with effectively a 0 second or fractions of a millisecond lag time, that they reckon that the fact that it's even a fraction of a millisecond, your body is sensitive enough to pick up on that, and it just completely screws your senses. Like you don't have the ability to turn before you turn. If you need to turn now, well, you're actually going to be turning late.
Yep.
By the time that you've sent the command to the car's responded and sent the command back for effectively verification or to let you know that it's done it. So that's never ended well. Like if they're driving at 10 kilometers an hour around a car park, it's okay.
Yep.
But as soon as you actually get some speed about it, and there's just so many nuances when you're driving a vehicle that you can't pick up when you're not in the vehicle. Like you don't get like if you get a strong crosswind when you're driving, you automatically steer into it because you can feel the vehicle drifting. But if you're not in the vehicle, you're not going to be aware that that's happening.
No.
And next thing you know, the car's going to run off the road because you've hit a strong crosswind, but you haven't had that natural reflex that would occur if you're in the vehicle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, well, the concept of using remote communications for things isn't new. I mean, look at Ron Williams' Toys movie. They're developing a remote. They're using kids basically playing arcade games, but in actual fact, they're flying real drones into real combat situations.
In this game.
Yeah. So it's not a new concept. And the irony of that is actually flying would be a better use for that, because even if there is a slight lag time, the chances of that causing an issue of you hitting something or running into something is far less because there's so much more room around you. So actually having a little bit of a lag with an airplane or a drone or whatever isn't actually generally that detrimental. Possibly landing could be a bit of an issue, but it would all be computer assisted anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. It seems like a cool use for technology, but how far do you sort of allow it to go before it's no longer a cool use and suddenly you're bombing half of a country somewhere?
Is it likely to happen in our lifetime is the question.
Oh, well, it most likely already is. Well, it already is. We know that for a fact. They have UAVs already. So it's not, they're not autonomous drones. They're still being flown by pilots.
Yeah. But I mean, for us to buy them, general public.
It's technically possible now. I don't see why it wouldn't be. The technology that we have isn't unattainable now in a lot of situations. I mean, I can see where it'd be an issue, trying to fly across the Nullarbor or something where there's no comms towers or there's no, but if you're to stick within, you got to think about it. Like if you had, let's say, a helicopter, which would realistically, or a VTOL, but let's say helicopters because they're a more realistic use of that application. A helicopter's only got a couple of hour flight time anyway, so a standard like small thing. So you can't fly that far realistically anyway. So I can see where it would be handy for like a taxi service style thing with a helicopter, like
Uber flights.
Yeah, although most angel flights and stuff are remote and rural, which is part of the problem you'd have. But I can see, for example, you go to Service Paradise, you go up to the top of one of the buildings, you jump on effectively a taxi helicopter, which might hold, say, 2 people, and you fly you and your mate to the Gold Coast and jump off there in a building there. Like for something like that, it'd be great, or even for something as simple as freeing up pilots, because for the shark patrols, they're taking a pilot and a co-pilot and everything to keep an eye on, and just to look for a shark. And with something like that being done remotely would be perfectly fine, or a search and rescue, as long as it wasn't too remote. So I don't think it's that far away. I just don't think there's that many practical applications for it that the average person would have a use for. It's not like you want to go to work. You're not gonna jump in your aeroplane and fly to work for the day. Can you imagine trying to find parking?
Crazy.
What is it in Lethal Weapon 2 or whatever it is, when they rock up at the Playboy Mansion? He's like, I get 50 cents for a car and $1 for an SUV. What do I get for this? He's rocked up in the cement truck. So, but speaking of cars, DeLorean. That awesome car that was in Back to the Future, and it's one of 2 dream cars that I've always had, for 2 reasons. One, it was in Back to the Future, and it's an awesome looking car. The other reason is it was predominantly produced in 1981, which is the same year I was produced. So
you're a DeLorean, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. See, I can flap. But so obviously it was around, it was John DeLorean started up the company in the mid to late 70s, started developing 80, 81, 82, started actually selling cars. And then he got tied up in a drug scandal and everything went pear-shaped for him. And he was basically a scapegoat for the government. And he got shut down, in fact. Well, he didn't get shut down. People stopped buying his cars and he shut the business. So back in, I want to say like 2015-ish, somewhere around there, they found, some guys found a warehouse in Canada that contained all original DeLorean parts.
Wow.
Like there was enough to build like 500 cars or something already made, and all the stampings and all the molds and everything was there to continue to make the DeLoreans. So obviously they had to do a few things. They had to update a few bits and pieces to bring them up to safety standards. But since I want to say like 2015, 16, 17, in there somewhere, they have started producing DeLoreans again, new ones this time. But same principle, and all that's done. All that's done is make the original DeLoreans worth like $100,000 now.
Oh,
20 years ago, they were, even in Australia, I saw a few of them on trading posts back in the day when that was a thing. And you would see them regularly go for $10,000 or $15,000.
Yeah.
The same ones now are going for like $100,000 US.
Wow. Nice.
So they've increased in value somewhat. But what they're doing now is DeLorean's just come out and said that we are now going to do factory electric vehicles. So there's still going to be the DeLorean, But straight off the bat, they're just going to be putting an electric motor in them and a battery pack and doing it that way.
Cool.
Oh, excuse me. The pricing is probably going to be somewhat similar because they're taking out a motor, they're taking out the gearbox, they're taking out tail shaft, they're taking out fuel tank. Like, there's a lot of stuff they don't need, and they're putting a battery pack and the motor in, the speed controller. So the prices aren't going to be too different. The performance of the electric one will be vastly improved on the standard one because it's just a more powerful engine and it's going to end up being a lighter vehicle.
Yep.
Now, part of that is because the States has gone mental and every car manufacturer that sells more than X amount of cars. So it doesn't work for like boutique cars that sell less than, I don't know what their cutoff is, but less than X amount of cars per year, you don't need to have a zero emission program. But if you sell more than an X amount of cars, you do have to have a zero emission program.
Right.
Well, DeLorean last year sold like 3 more cars than that cutoff. So now they've got to have a zero emissions program. They're like, okay, well, something they're going to do anyway. They just push their programming forward a bit.
Yep.
And what was I going to say? Yeah, so they've done that. The other part of the reason they've done it is that there's a lot of people out there who are converting, because by now the original 1981 DeLorean, mechanically the cars are shot. They weren't the best drive lines in the first place, and after 40 years they're done. So they're either paying 10, 15, 20 grand to rebuild the engines and gearboxes and drivelines in these things, or they're paying 10, 15, 20 grand to do an electric conversion to the vehicle anyway.
So you might as well.
And so there's a lot of electric conversions happening with the DeLoreans anyway. So they're like, well, so much of the infrastructure is already there. So many people have got it perfected now. There's actually a company in the States that's literally all they do is they electrify vehicles. Specifically, well, one of their main vehicles they do is DeLorean. So they actually have a package deal you can go and buy and fit it yourself if you want.
Yep.
But they're like, okay, the infrastructure's there. We know what works. We know what doesn't. We just need to refine it a bit to make it suitable for factory production. And we'll sell. And they've already, I think originally they had done, it's 500 cars or something originally was what they were going to do. And they actually aired an ad during the Super Bowl to say that this is what they're doing. And they reckon by the time the ad finished, the 30-second ad finished, they'd oversold their pre-orders already.
Oh, wow.
So
Everybody wants them.
So everybody wants them, which I don't blame them. I mean, if you're even remotely familiar with the 80s Back to the Future, I mean, it's unfortunately Back to the Future came too late for DeLorean, for DMC. If Back to the Future was made 5 years earlier, it potentially would have actually saved the company from going bankrupt in the first place.
Oh, wow.
But so it's one of the well, now it's a pipe dream. The irony is my two dream cars that I've always wanted. One is a DeLorean, and one is either an A9X or an SLR 5000 Tirana. They've gone from when I was at school and dreaming about them and always wanting them and having posters on my wall, them being a $10,000 car, they're now all in excess of $100,000. Like, seriously? I don't even see them at car shows anymore, let alone actually ever having the chance of owning one. But I'm like, well, now the thing is you can buy a brand new one, which is mostly the same. To look at it's exactly the same. There's a few little differences, and it's like 60 grand or something for a new one. Which is ironic because you would think that would drive the price down of the second-hand ones, but with the new ones being priced at that price, it's actually made the new ones go up in value, or the old ones go up in value, because there's now these guys not only have enough, they're not only making new cars, there's enough original OEM parts to service the 5,000 or 6,000 DeLoreans that are still on the road worldwide. So suddenly the OEM cars are actually worth money because now they don't have to throw a Chevy diff in or whatever. They can actually buy the parts from DMC to keep their cars original. So suddenly the price has just gone ballistic. So, but yeah, it is interesting though that they've made that choice to do it to the original. Originally, they were talking about it. I think when they were originally planning on doing it, they weren't going to use the DeLorean as it stands. They were going to use a different vehicle as their electric vehicle. But obviously, the people have spoken, and public peer pressure got the better of them.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, we've got the car here. We'll just
Go with it."
go with that,
And thanks for listening to the Aussie Tech Head Show. We can be found at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon and Coffee. Email us willowarlock@aussietechheads.com.au and go to aussietechradio.com 24/7 playback of tech-related shows. See you next time.
Bye.